Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Tim, here with Misfits AI. Today, we're going to be covering how to locally install and run text generation web UI locally on your machine. Now, this video is assuming that you followed my last video, which went over getting your AI system set up. If you have not watched that video, I highly recommend you watch it before this one so everything perfectly makes sense and you start off with your AI system on the right foot, okay? The link to that will be in the description below. So, the first thing we're going to do, right, is we're going to learn how to git clone this repository. We're not going to worry about any of the instructions down here, right? We have a download the repository button, but we're not going to use that. We're going to learn how to actually operate our git repository and git clone repository. So what you're going to do is you're going to copy the GitHub link and you're going to hit copy. All right. And then you're going to go down here and you're going to choose what file directory you want it to be in. And what we're going to do next is we're going to create a folder. And what to look at this as is look at it as a imager. And what I mean by that is imagine you have a bottle of Coke in front of you and you got a lid on that Coke. Well, what this folder is this is our lid to our Coke. So we're typing in Text-Gen-AI. And one other important thing is whenever it comes to these installs, these folders cannot have any spaces, especially whenever we're using a mini conda environment, okay? Because a mini conda environment can't do something called a whisper. And all that means is the Miniconda environment needs an exact file directory, and it's just easier for it to go through the directory path if we don't have any spaces in our file structure. So make a folder called Text-Gen-AI and then open it. Boom. Now we just opened the lid on our Coke, right? This is what's keeping our Conda environment separate. This is what's keeping things properly organized and actually set up correctly. So now what we're going to do is we've already copied and pasted this GitHub link, right? So now we go over here and in our file directory, we just type in cmd, enter. Now what this does for us is it brings up the command prompt. And now we're going to give it a bash command. So we're going to type in git space clone space, and then we copy and paste it and hit enter. And now we're cloning the repository. So you see right here, it just popped up the repository. So now we're good to go ahead and close our command prompt. And now we open our Text-Gen-WebUI tab. And then we scroll down and we're running on Windows operating system. And just so you all know, all these video tutorials that I make, they all assume that you're running on the Windows operating system or Windows subsystem for Linux whenever we get to that portion in this course. But for right now, our main focus is on Windows, okay? And now you'll start to see where our CUDA version and everything we did in the system requirements section comes into play, right? So we're going to hit start windows.bat. And this is going to go ahead and launch our command prompt, and it's going to start installing the requirements from the requirements text in the directory. And we're just going to give it a minute to do its thing. As you see right here, it's checking the mini conda, it's doing everything it needs to do. It's getting everything set up, and then here in a moment, you're going to see it's going to start creating our virtual environment. And it's going to go slower because I'm recording, so I may end up pausing the recording during some points of the video. That way, the installer goes ahead and does its thing, right? All right, so now it's asking us about our GPU. If you notice and you paid attention to earlier, the version of CUDA that we installed was 11.8. 11.8 was the version of CUDA we installed earlier. So this is the version that we're going to select for our GPU. Now later on, whenever we move to Windows subsystem for Linux, then there is where we're going to start utilizing our CUDA 12.1. But for our Windows installation, we're going to be using CUDA 11.8. So we're going to be hitting B on this. Now it's installing our PyTorch and it's getting all the necessary tools that we need for us to begin using text web generation UI. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause the video here, and I'll come back to you whenever we're further along in the installation. We're just going to let it go through, let it do its thing, and just wait until your installation gets to the point of where I'm at when we come back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we are back into the recording. Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop the stopwatch.
Okay, stopped at 4 minutes and 9 seconds.
Alright, so that's about how long it took for the installer to run, so you got an idea. I waited for about 4 minutes and 9 seconds. So about 5 minutes, give or take, for it to install all of its packages and do everything it needs to do, right? So now, what we do is we see the local URL we're running on, right? So now we hold down left control and we left click, and then now we're launched into our web UI, right? So the first section we want to come down and look at is models. All right, this is where you're going to download models right here, and this is where you're going to load models up. Right now we don't have any models installed, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through exactly what we're looking for and how we download these models, right? So for this example, I'm going to go to a really popular set of models. And what I usually like to do to look at current good text generation models is I like looking at this leaderboard called the UGI leaderboard. Oh, hang on, let me not leave that. There we go. And so what this leaderboard consists of is it's pretty much the best top ranking uh, local models that you can run locally. And there's a couple things we want to look at, right? So there's important aspects like 70 billion parameters, 22 billion parameters. Like this one right here. This is one of my favorite models personally. It's a Cydonia version 1.3 and Magnum version 4. 22 billion parameter merge. And what we look at, this can be the most intimidating part for people, right? But I'm going to make it stupid simple for you. So this is just a regular full model, right? So this is what a full model looks like whenever you're going to download it. But we don't want to download full models. We want to download quantizations of these models. And typically we're going to want to go for the GUF format. Now, me personally, I like this dude right here. I don't know how to pronounce his name fully, but this is a dude I like a lot. He uses the I1 quantizations and the regular Gulf quantizations of different models. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look right here. And if you look down, we have a chart. And it's pretty much letting us know what qualities what and the size and the gigabytes of the model. Okay. So to make this easier, if we look on this page, you want to think about the file size as, okay, specifically with GUF models, it's going to take, for example, the highest version is a Q6K GUF file. This is going to take up 18.3 gigabytes in your GPU. All right. So if you have a 4090 graphics card, this is the model, just loading the model itself, not counting the context. This is what is going to take up on your graphics card by default. Now, the best middle ground you can find, this goes across with any GUF quantization for any model you want to use, is the QKM. QKM is usually that perfect balance between model size and model quality. Because once you start comparing a Q4KM GUF versus a Q6 or Q8 GUF, typically the quality difference is very minute. Now, where the quality difference becomes more apparent is whenever we start looking at GUF quantizations of image models or video models like Hunyuan or Flux. Like, that's whenever we'll start noticing a big deterioration in quality. But for right now, and just text generation, the difference between a Q4 and a Q6 is the difference between someone saying, and then I walked through the door, and then another one saying, and a few moments later I walked through the door. Like, there's not that much quality difference whenever it comes to the text generation between the two. And if the example I just gave doesn't sound like it's much of a quality difference or a breaker to you, then there you go. You're getting what I'm putting down. All right. So now let's get into how to download these models, right? So let's say we want something that's in here. And now feel free if you want something that's smaller. Like I said, 22 billion parameters, this is a big model. Now in the larger scheme of things, like it's not as big as a 70 billion parameter. It's not as big as a 100 and something parameter model. Like this is a 22 billion parameter models. And a lot of graphics cards won't be able to handle this model, but I'm just giving you a basic understanding of what you can go for, right? So with this 22 billion parameter model, since I know I'm on a 4090, I typically, even though I still have so much more room on mine, I'm still going to go for the Q3KM, which is going to be taking up 13.3 gigabytes. And I did not mean to install that. Let's go ahead and cancel that. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to install this through the Text-Gen-WebUI. So what we're going to do is we just come over here and you see where this is highlighted right here. We're just going to hit this button right here to copy the model name to the clipboard. All right. Then we come over to the download section in Text-Gen-WebUI and we paste it. Now, we're not ready to download it yet. All right. All this is saying is hey, this is the branch or tree that I'm wanting to download my model from. And then from that branch or tree, you notice how I said we're going to be downloading the Q4KM, which is right here. So we go ahead and we click this, and it's going to open us to this page. Now you see how we have this icon we copied from up here earlier? Well, now we have it down here as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this path. And now we're telling Text-Gen-WebUI that you're copying from this tree and you're taking this specific GUF model from said tree. And then we're hitting download. And now, once we hit the download button, if you open up your command prompt, you will notice that we are currently downloading the Q4KM GUF format of this model. All right. Now, the only thing to know is like there's some subtle difference here. Like specifically, this is an I matrix quant. Now, all this means is that it's a different way that the data is taking the flow to generate our response compared to a just regular old GUF file. And I want to tell you too now, usually I1 is a better pick because you get faster generations compared to a model that doesn't have an I matrix version. That's just some real technical shit, but you'll start to learn that more and more as you start getting involved in experimenting with different models on your PC. So right now, we're going to go ahead and pause the recording, and we're going to come back whenever this is done, and we're going to start messing with the text generation. All right, guys, and we're back. And another thing I wanted to show you all before we continued as well is we also have tools at our disposal, thanks to Hugging Face. They're stuff called VRAM calculators for our models, right? So up here, you put in the amount of VRAM that you have on your graphics card that's available to you. And then say we want to see what size quantizations we can fit on our 4090 24 gigabyte graphics card. So we come over and we open up the where it says weighted iMatrix quants of, and then the link of the original model. We want to go to this original model, and we're going to keep this tab open because we're going to come back to the original model later, as this is going to become important whenever we convert it into a different llama version. Okay, so what you want to do is you just want to come up here and copy this right here. You want to copy the model name to the clipboard, and then you want to come over and you want to just paste that right here. And then for our context size, I know it's a 32,000 context size model. All right, and so we set it there. And then we know we're gonna get the Q4KM, right? And so then we hit submit. And now we see that the model size is 12.5 gigabytes. The context size of 32,768 is a context size of 10 gigabytes, leaving the total size to fit on our graphics card at 22 gigabytes with around 2 gigabytes, a little bit less of headroom to operate this full model at 32K context on our GPU. Now, you see, this is part of the advantages of choosing a lower quantization model. Why we picked the QKM is because if you would have picked that 18 gigabyte model, then take a look what it would look like. That was a Q6, right? A Q6K. Look at that. We're not offloading it all to our GPU at that point. That's why it's in the red now. So we're wanting to keep it at a Q4. We're really wanting to nail this down. We're wanting to keep it at a Q4 KM, and then whenever we hit the submit, boom, we're in the green, and we have about 2 gigabytes of headroom on our graphics card, right? So this is a very useful tool to use, and I will link it in the description below, so everybody will be able to pull up the link to this tool and be able to experiment around, find a large language model that you may like, and pop it in here, put in your max VRAM, and decide decide if your system can really run it and how well it can run it. And also keep in mind too that you can also utilize your RAM as well. Now the RAM is going to be significantly slower over your VRAM. But for me, I'm able to split and offload models very well because I have a 4090 graphics card, which is 24 gigabytes of VRAM, combined with 128 gigabytes of regular RAM. Alright, so I can run pretty much whatever I want to run locally. But just keep that in mind that your VRAM and your RAM plays a big portion into what you can run whenever it comes to text generation, large language models, and large language models in general, whether it's video generation, image generation, or just text generation. This is very important to remember, okay? So now, let's go ahead and look at our Text-Gen-WebUI because our model finished installing, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to hit the refresh button up here. And if you notice, if we go down, we can load up our model. Now, we're not having to worry about the threads or the threads batch because everything is being offloaded onto our GPU, okay? Now, we could just load the model like it is, right? But if you look up here, we're using the llama.ccp loader, right? Now, from my experience, the llama cpp underscore hf gives us a higher quality responses. And the reason why is if we go over to the actual full-size model and we look, now we also have these other files. We have the config.json. We have the model safe tensors index. We have the special tokens map JSON. We have the tokenizer. We have the tokenizer model. We have the tokenizer config.json. Now, the important thing to remember is on some of these models, right, the model isn't going to be used to its highest quality because it's not pulling these files whenever we're just using the Gulf quantization. So what we want to do and what's really dope and why I love Text-Gen-WebUI, I cannot give this application enough praise simply for this feature alone. Just makes the quality of our text generation shoot up through the roof. So what we do is we go over here and you see how it says llama cpp underscore hf creator. So this is going to allow us to choose GUFs that we have locally and convert them over so it actually uses the tokenizer and other aspects of the model like it was the full size model, like that has these safe tensor files here. Well, we're just using the GUF format, so we don't have all this shit right here. And we don't have none of this, the tokenizer or anything neither. So we're going to fix that, and it's going to run the model like it is a full-size model and utilize the the tokenizers. Good Lord, I can't fucking speak today. I'm having a goddamn stroke. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the full model, right? Whoops, not that far. Go over to just the full model, and we're going to copy this like we did before. And now we're going to go over and we're going to select our guff. And you'll probably have to hit this refresh button if you just downloaded it and did all this in one sitting, okay? So you're going to do that. And then right here it says enter the URL of the original unquantized model. And that's what this is. Now, anytime you're looking for this, right, this is the page we downloaded it from. Remember, how we found this is we looked, because almost every Gov quantization will reference the original model in the bio of the Gov quantized version. So we just look at the about and we see weighted IMAX quants and we click it. And then this brings us to the full model, okay? So now that we got the full model copied to our clipboard, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into Text-Gen-WebUI. We're going to select our Guff. And then here we have the original URL and we're going to hit submit. Now, if we look into our files, something interesting just happened, right? So to find our models, we're going to go underneath the Text-Gen-WebUI install and we're going to go to our models folder. And here is where we're going to find our new Guff quantized model, but it's in a folder, and guess what it has? The config.json, the special tokenized tokens map, the tokenizer JSN, the tokenizer model, and the tokenizer config. This is going to increase the quality of the responses overall, right? And so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit this refresh button on our models page. Now whenever we go to it, boom. Now we got the llama CPP underscore HF version. Now, whenever we run these, if you look at this, we see cache type slightly beneath it, right? What I recommend you do is whatever quant of the model you download, you go down here and you run the equivalent, right? Now, whenever we're looking at the underscore HF, we're not using these versions, the ones that say FP8, Q8, Q6, and Q4. Without an underscore in them. We're only using the versions that have an underscore in them because these are the ones that are compatible with what we're running. Then, since we're using CUDA, we're able to go up here and select tensor cores and flash attention, right? And then we're going to hit save to save these settings. And what this is going to do is, see how it says NVIDIA only? So this may improve the performance on newer cards. We know we're on a 4090. The 5090 just came out. So this is what we're using because we know we're on the latest 40 series of GPUs, right? And so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to load our model. And if we look over and we see our task manager, look at what we're doing here, right? We see our GPU being used. We're going to see it all moving. We're going to watch our memory. It's going to go up. And right now, we're loading the model. So it's important to keep your eye on the task manager whenever you're loading the model. And we may have to restart WebUI since we're switching from it loading up Lima CPP to Lima CPP underscore HF. I'll just have to find out. And right now it's going a little bit slower than usual because we are doing a full HD 4K recording. So let's just wait up here a moment, see how long it takes. I'm probably going to go ahead and pause the recording. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Now you see we got the model fully and successfully loaded up. It just took a few moments there. And this is going to be going really slow for us because I am doing the recording right now because we're doing full 4K. So that's going to be holding us back. But let's just test this out just so you can see a sample generation. So what you do is you just go over here into the chat tab. And we got a character that we're going to go ahead and chat it up with. Now, Text-Gen-WebUI is going to automatically load up the instruction template that comes with the model that we installed, right? So we really don't have to do much. The only other things we can do is we can do and set the temperature and all the different sampler parameters. And this is all things you're going to set to your own taste over time. But for right now, we're just going to do the simple deterministic preset. And this is just what we're going to roll with for right now. And we're going to go ahead. If you go to new max tokens, all right, this is going to set us up with the limit of max tokens we can have, right? So then we're just going to tell the AI, I'm going to say, hey, write me a short story. Like just write me a funny short story. And here we go. Now it's just going right up in front of us whenever we look at our task manager. All right, we can see our GPU working. See the utilization? And so see, it's just simple as that. But that's a very basic breakdown, right? So to summarize it, so far, you've installed your first model. You've learned how to go onto the VRAM calculator and determine if a model can fit, right? And you've also learned how to download these models on the Text-Gen-WebUI, right? You've learned how to convert them from your basic Llama CPP over to the Llama CPP underscore HF. That way we can use these Gov quantization models as a full model, right? And we've done all this locally. And now this is the part where it's up to you. Find and experiment around, right? If you get a model bigger than what can fit on your graphics card, you need to reevaluate it. Make sure you're using this VRAM calculator because models are going to perform their best whenever we're running them on our hardware, whenever we're running them strictly on our GPU, right? If we let it and have to offload it and split it between the RAM and the VRAM, we're going to get a significant hit to our performance and it's going to take significantly longer to generate these responses. But with all that said, you guys, that's it. My name's Tim. This has been another tutorial on Misfits AI. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below if you found this video helpful. Hit me up if you have any questions. Check out the Patreon, join the Discord, and be a part of the community. With all that said, much love, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Peace.